The idea of starting over has always sounded clean. A new year arrives, the calendar resets, and suddenly it feels like there's space again. Space to become someone different. Space to leave certain habits behind. Space to believe that whatever didn't work before won't follow you forward. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to admit. Nothing inside you actually resets when the year changes. The nervous system doesn't recognize January 1st as a turning point. Habits don't weaken because the calendar advanced. What carries over isn't time, it's conditioning. And that's why most New Year, New Me promises quietly fail, even when you truly want change. If you look back at previous years honestly, you'll probably notice a familiar cycle. The year begins with a quiet sense of intention. Not always goals, sometimes just a feeling that things should shift, that this time will be different in some undefined way. For a while that feeling is enough. It creates optimism, energy, the sense that movement is coming. Then life resumes. Not dramatically, not destructively, just normally. Days fill up, routines return. Discomfort appears in small ways. Not enough to force action, but enough to be noticed. And when that discomfort surfaces, the brain does what it has always done. It looks for relief. Relief doesn't have to mean escape. Often it means delay. Telling yourself you'll start once things feel clearer. Once the pressure eases. Once motivation feels more natural. From the brain's perspective, this is not a flaw. It's protection. Neuroscience shows that the brain prioritizes short-term emotional regulation over long-term growth. Immediate comfort registers more strongly than abstract future benefit. When something feels uncertain, effortful, or identity-threatening, avoidance pathways activate automatically, not as fear, as postponement. That's why most people don't feel like they're avoiding change. They feel like they're waiting for the right internal conditions to arrive, and waiting feels responsible. It feels like patience, like maturity, like not rushing into something before you're ready. The problem isn't that this logic is wrong, it's that it quietly assumes readiness comes before action. Psychologically, that's almost never true. Readiness is not a prerequisite for change, it's a byproduct of exposure. Confidence doesn't appear and then invite action. It develops after repeated interaction with discomfort. Clarity doesn't arrive first and then allow movement. It sharpens through movement itself. But the brain prefers the opposite sequence because it minimizes risk. This is why the New Year, New Me narrative struggles. It promises transformation without confronting the mechanisms that prevent it. It frames change as a decision, not as a biological adaptation. And decisions are easy to make in theory. Adaptation is slow. What often happens is this. The identity wants movement, but the nervous system wants stability. This creates an internal contradiction people don't always recognize. They genuinely want growth. They genuinely feel dissatisfied staying the same, and yet behavior doesn't change in any lasting way. That contradiction produces a quiet form of tension. Not panic, not despair. A low-grade sense of being slightly behind yourself. People describe it as feeling stuck even though nothing is wrong. We now live in an environment saturated with ideas, advice, frameworks, optimization strategies. You can hear articulate explanations for almost any struggle within minutes. That level of access feels empowering, and in many ways it is. But neurologically there's a downside. The brain can experience insight as a form of reward. Recognition releases dopamine. Feeling understood feels good. Learning language for your patterns feels like progress. And because it feels good, the nervous system relaxes. The problem is that relaxation can masquerade as resolution. You feel better, so urgency fades. The discomfort that might have pushed action softens. And because nothing hurts immediately, the brain interprets this as stability being restored. Here's the catch. Reading 10 articles about productivity doesn't make you productive. Understanding your obstacles doesn't execute the work. Your brain feels clever, but nothing moves. And that's exactly the illusion your nervous system loves. This creates an illusion of movement. You feel closer to change without being closer to it. Exposure replaces embodiment. This is why the New Year narrative has become more fragile. People enter the year more informed than ever, yet behavior remains remarkably consistent. They don't feel ignorant, they feel overwhelmed. Too many options, too many paths, too many voices explaining why things are the way they are. When the brain receives too much possibility without structure, it often chooses none. Decision paralysis increases, avoidance becomes easier to justify, waiting returns. Repetition shapes identity. The brain becomes what it practices. If the practice is delay, delay becomes automatic. Imagine someone who plans to run a mile every day. The first day they run, the second, too tired. The third, it's cold. 2 months later they intended to start but haven't. Their brain learned not the running habit, it learned the postponing habit. That's powerful, that's subtle, and that's what the New Year narrative overlooks. This is why years can pass without dramatic mistakes, yet still feel heavy in retrospect. Not because something went wrong, but because nothing really changed. That realization tends to surface around transitions, birthdays, endings, New Year's, moments where time becomes visible. The calendar doesn't accuse you, it reflects patterns. It shows repetition without commentary, and that reflection can feel unsettling. Not because it says you failed, because it shows you stayed in the same emotional responses, the same coping strategies, the same protective behaviors. Protection isn't wrong, but protection without examination becomes confinement. Have you noticed? You can keep doing the same things year after year and feel okay, but there's a low hum of dissatisfaction underneath. That hum isn't a sign of laziness, it's a signal, something your nervous system learned about comfort and safety. This is the truth about New Year, New Me that's uncomfortable to admit. Change doesn't start when you decide who you want to be. It starts when the nervous system feels safe enough to let go of who it's been protecting. And safety doesn't come from intention. It comes from gradual exposure, from showing the brain repeatedly that discomfort doesn't equal danger, that effort doesn't equal loss of identity, that uncertainty can be survived. Without that experience, the brain has no reason to cooperate. This is why resolutions fail quietly, not explosively. People don't give up. They drift back. They return to familiar patterns because familiarity feels safe, even when it's unsatisfying. And because the drift is subtle, it doesn't feel like betrayal, it feels like life happening. By the time awareness catches up, months have passed. That's when people say they don't know where the time went. The time didn't disappear. It was absorbed by routine. And here's the part most people never admit. It's not laziness. It's not lack of discipline. It's the nervous system protecting itself. It learned that nothing catastrophic happens if you drift, so it relaxes when intention arises. What often hurts most isn't the lack of progress. It's the erosion of self-trust. Each year that begins with hope and ends without change chips away at the belief that things can be different, not consciously, quietly. The brain starts lowering its expectations. It learns not to rely on intention, not to take future plans too seriously. This isn't pessimism, it's conditioning. The nervous system learns from evidence, not promises, and if evidence says nothing follows intention, it adjusts accordingly. That adjustment feels like apathy, or cynicism, or numbness, but underneath it is something simpler. Experience taught the brain to stop expecting change. This is why the solution isn't to make bigger promises, or louder declarations, or more dramatic resets. Those don't convince the nervous system, they overwhelm it. What changes behavior is alignment, slowly rebuilding trust through consistent, tolerable exposure to discomfort. Not transformation, not reinvention. Adaptation. Start small. A 5-minute habit, a brief reflection, a tiny action repeated daily. Your nervous system will notice. It will learn that discomfort doesn't destroy you. That effort is survivable. That change is possible. This is where the New Year framing can be misleading. It suggests a clean break when what's needed is continuity. Change doesn't happen because time resets. It happens because behavior interrupts itself. That interruption doesn't need to be intense. It needs to be repeated. The nervous system doesn't need proof that you can become someone new. It needs proof that discomfort won't destroy you. Until it has that proof, it will default to protection. That's not weakness, it's design. This is also why shame never works. Shame signals threat. Threat strengthens avoidance. Avoidance reinforces the pattern you were trying to escape. Understanding does the opposite. When you understand why delay felt logical, the internal conflict softens. When you understand why comfort was rewarded, the guilt fades. When you understand that nothing changed because the system stayed protective, pressure dissolves. And pressure was never helpful anyway, so next time you feel the pull of "I'll start tomorrow," remember, it's not laziness, it's biology. You can honor that biology while gradually training it to tolerate action. That's the true path. This isn't about forcing yourself into a new identity. It's about noticing what's actually been running your behavior. The truth is quieter than slogans. There was no dramatic failure. There was no lack of desire. There was no missing discipline. There was a nervous system doing exactly what it evolved to do: protect. And protection only loosens when it no longer feels necessary. That's why awareness matters more than resolve. You don't need to declare a new version of yourself. You don't need a theme for the year. You don't need a dramatic narrative. You need clarity. Clarity about how delay feels safe, how waiting feels reasonable, how information can replace movement, how time reinforces patterns without judgment. Once you see that clearly, something shifts. For the nervous system to experiment, to tolerate small discomfort without panic, to slowly update its expectations. That's how real change begins. Not with a reset, but with recognition. And if this reflection feels uncomfortable, that's okay. Discomfort doesn't mean something is wrong. It means something is being seen. The truth about New Year, New Me isn't that it's a lie people tell on purpose. It's a story people cling to because it feels hopeful without being demanding. But hope without understanding fades. Understanding without pressure lasts. And lasting change doesn't announce itself at the start of the year. It unfolds quietly as patterns shift, and the nervous system learns that growth isn't a threat. That's psychology.